Prepare to journey back to a time of chaos and destiny, where the fate of a nation hung in the balance. This is the saga of Minamoto no Yoritomo, the man who clawed his way from the depths of exile to forge a new Japan, forever changing the course of history with iron will and strategic genius. Imagine a land teetering on the brink. For centuries, the imperial court in Kyoto had held sway, a beacon of culture and refinement. But by the 12th century, that light was fading, dimmed by internal strife and aristocratic indulgence. Power had become a game of poetry and privilege, detached from the harsh realities faced by the people. The provinces, neglected and exploited, seethed with discontent. A vacuum of authority was opening, and into this void stepped the warrior class. For generations, samurai had served as provincial enforcers and guards for the nobles. They were skilled in combat, bound by loyalty, and increasingly aware of their own strength. Two great warrior clans, the Minamoto and the Taira, rose to prominence, vying for influence over the weakening court. Their rivalry was a simmering volcano ready to erupt. The old order was crumbling and the age of the warrior was dawning. This turbulent era would be the crucible for a leader unlike any Japan had seen before. Our story begins in 1147, with the birth of Minamoto no Yoritomo. He was born into the heart of power, son of Minamoto no Yoshitomo, a leading figure of the clan. His early life was one of privilege, steeped in the traditions of a warrior noble. But this world of relative comfort was shattered in 1159. The Heiji Rebellion erupted, a brutal clash between the Minamoto and the ascendant Taira clan. It was a desperate struggle for control over the imperial court itself. Yoritomo's father, Yoshitomo, led the Minamoto forces. The fighting was fierce, a stark contrast to the courtly life of Kyoto. Ultimately, the Taira, under the cunning leadership of Taira no Kiyomori, proved victorious. The Minamoto suffered a devastating defeat. Yoshitomo was killed and the clan's power was seemingly broken. The Taira purged their rivals, executing many prominent Minamoto leaders and their sons. Young Yoritomo, just 13 years old, was captured. His life hung by a thread, expected to be cut short like so many of his kinsmen. But fate, or perhaps a calculated political move by Kiyomori, intervened. Influenced by his stepmother, who pleaded for the boy's life, Kiyomori chose mercy. Instead of execution, Yoritomo was sentenced to exile. He was sent far from the capital, to the remote province of Izu. Exile was not freedom, it was a form of living death for a noble. Yoritomo was placed under the watchful eye of the Ito and Hojo clans, local samurai families nominally loyal to the Taira. His movements were restricted, his life quiet and unassuming. Years turned into a decade. Far from the political intrigue and cultural vibrancy of Kyoto, Yoritomo lived a life of enforced obscurity. He was a ghost of his former self, a prince in chains. But exile was also a harsh teacher. Stripped of status and power, Yoritomo was forced to observe, to listen, and to wait. He could not openly plot, but his mind was a constant forge of strategy and ambition. He learned the ways of the provincial samurai, understanding their grievances and aspirations. He saw the arrogance of the distant Taira rulers and the growing resentment it fostered. The seeds of his future rebellion were sown in the quiet fields of Izu. He married Hojo Masako, daughter of Hojo Tokimasa, one of his overseers. This alliance was crucial, binding a powerful local family to his destiny. It was a testament to his quiet influence and strategic foresight, even in isolation. Yoritomo did not rage against his fate. He endured it. He cultivated patience, honed his understanding of power dynamics, and solidified his resolve. The boy who was spared had become a man tempered by hardship, waiting for his moment. By the 1180s, the Taira clan's dominance had become absolute and increasingly oppressive. Kiyomori ruled with an iron fist, filling court positions with his relatives and treating the emperor as a puppet. Their arrogance alienated even those who had once supported them. Resentment simmered across the land. The old noble families chafed under Taira control, and the provincial samurai felt increasingly marginalized and exploited. The stage was set for a challenge. In 1180, a pivotal moment arrived. Prince Mochihito, a son of Emperor Go Shirakawa, issued a call to arms. Disgusted by the Taira's usurpation of imperial authority, he sent a secret message to the remaining Minamoto scattered across the country. The message was a plea for the Minamoto to rise and overthrow the Taira. It was a dangerous gamble, but it offered a glimmer of hope to those who yearned for change. This message reached Yoritomo in Izu. For 20 years, Yoritomo had waited. Now the signal had come. He was no longer a powerless exile. He was the senior surviving leader of the Minamoto clan, the one around whom resistance could coalesce. The time for patience was over. He raised his banner in Izu, a bold declaration of defiance against the mighty Taira. His initial force was small, composed of loyal followers and local samurai who had pledged their support, including his father-in-law, Hojo Tokimasa. The early days of the rebellion were fraught with peril. Yoritomo's nascent army was inexperienced and outnumbered. The Taira reacted swiftly to this unexpected challenge from the east. Their forces met at the Battle of Ishibashiyama. It was a disaster for Yoritomo. His small army was overwhelmed and scattered. He suffered a crushing defeat, narrowly escaping with his life. Pursued by Taira forces, Yoritomo was forced to flee into the rugged Hakone Mountains. It was a desperate, humiliating retreat. He was once again a fugitive, his rebellion seemingly crushed before it had truly begun. He hid in caves, aided by loyal supporters who risked their lives for him. This near-fatal experience could have broken a lesser man, but Yoritomo's resolve only hardened. He had faced death and defeat, and he had survived. This setback was not the end, but a brutal lesson. Yoritomo understood the need for a secure base, for reliable allies, and for strategic planning. He learned the cost of underestimating his enemy. He managed to escape the Taira dragnet and make his way to the province of Awa on the Boso Peninsula. Here, he found a more receptive audience among the local samurai who were eager to throw off Taira rule. The flame of rebellion, though flickering, was not extinguished. Having survived the initial Taira onslaught, Yoritomo needed a stronghold. He needed a place where he could gather strength, organize his forces, and establish a center of authority far from the Taira heartland in the west. His choice was Kamakura. Kamakura was a small, relatively obscure fishing village on the eastern coast, but it possessed crucial strategic advantages. It was naturally protected by mountains on 3 sides, and the sea on the 4th, making it easily defensible. Its location in the Kanto region was also key. The Kanto was a vast, fertile area with a large population of independent-minded samurai. It was far from Kyoto and the Taira's main power base, allowing Yoritomo to operate with relative autonomy. Establishing his headquarters here was a brilliant strategic move. It signaled a shift in power away from the imperial capital and towards the east, the traditional heartland of the warrior class. Kamakura would become the seat of a new kind of government. In Kamakura, Yoritomo began the painstaking process of building his power base. He wasn't just raising an army, he was creating a political and administrative structure. He offered protection and leadership to the samurai of the Kanto region. He implemented policies that resonated with the warrior class. He confirmed their landholdings, rewarded loyalty with new estates confiscated from Taira supporters, and established a clear hierarchy based on military service and fealty to him. Yoritomo created institutions to manage his growing domain. He established the Samurai Dokuro, Board of Retainers, to oversee his samurai vassals, ensuring their loyalty and discipline. This was a direct challenge to the old courtly system of governance. He was, in essence, creating a parallel government, a military administration, later known as the Bakufu. While the imperial court in Kyoto still existed, its actual power was being steadily eroded by Yoritomo's actions in the east. Yoritomo spent several years consolidating his control over the Kanto region. He put down local resistance, absorbed smaller warrior bands into his growing army, and established a network of loyal vassals. He was building a state within a state. He declared himself the de facto ruler of Eastern Japan, issuing commands and administering justice independently of the imperial court. The Taira, preoccupied with other threats and perhaps underestimating Yoritomo's resilience, allowed him the time he needed to grow strong. As Yoritomo solidified his base in Kamakura, the military campaign against the Taira was waged across Japan. While Yoritomo was the strategic mastermind and political leader, the battlefield genius of the Minamoto belonged to his younger half-brother, Minamoto no Yoshitsune. Yoshitsune was a brilliant commander, known for his daring tactics and swift victories. He, along with other Minamoto generals like Noriyori, led the charge against the Taira forces in a series of increasingly decisive battles. The Minamoto forces, fueled by resentment and the promise of a new order, pushed the Taira westward. Battles like Ichi no Tani and Yashima showcased Yoshitsune's tactical brilliance, inflicting heavy losses on the Taira and eroding their morale. The Taira, once invincible, found themselves on the defensive, their power base shrinking. They were forced to retreat, eventually consolidating their remaining strength for a final confrontation. The stage was set for the war's dramatic conclusion. In 1185, the two great clans met for the final time at the Battle of Dan no Ura, a naval engagement in the Shimonoseki Strait. It was a clash that would decide the fate of Japan. The Taira fleet, though initially holding an advantage, was ultimately outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. The battle was a catastrophic defeat for the Taira. Their fleet was destroyed, and their leaders were killed or captured. The young Emperor Antoku, who was with the Taira, drowned along with his grandmother, marking a tragic end to their bid for power. The Battle of Dan no Ura marked the definitive end of the Taira clan's dominance. The Genpei War, which had raged for 5 years, was over. The Minamoto had emerged victorious, not just on the battlefield, but in the struggle for the soul of Japan. The path was now clear for Yoritomo to establish his authority over the entire country. The old order had been swept away by the tide of war, and a new era, forged in the fires of conflict, was about to begin under the leadership of the man from Kamakura. With the Taira vanquished, Yoritomo faced a new challenge, consolidating his power and establishing a lasting system of governance. The war was won, but the political landscape was complex, with the imperial court still existing and potential rivals emerging, even within his own clan. Yoritomo moved swiftly and decisively. He was not interested in restoring the old courtly rule. His vision was for a warrior-led government. He needed to legitimize his power and create institutions that would ensure samurai dominance. One of the most dramatic episodes of this period was Yoritomo's conflict with his own brother Yoshitsune. Yoshitsune's military fame and popularity were seen as a potential threat by the pragmatic and often suspicious Yoritomo. Despite Yoshitsune's crucial role in the victory, Yoritomo refused to grant him significant power and eventually turned against him. Yoshitsune was forced to flee and was ultimately killed. This ruthless act demonstrated Yoritomo's unwavering focus on eliminating any challenge to his supreme authority. Yoritomo's ultimate goal was to formalize his position as the military ruler of Japan. In 1192, he achieved this goal when the imperial court, with little real power left to resist, bestowed upon him the title of Sei Taishogun, or Commander-in-Chief of the Expeditionary Force against the barbarians. While the title had existed before, Yoritomo transformed it. He was not just a temporary military commander, he was the head of a permanent military government. This marked the official beginning of the Kamakura Shogunate, the first bakufu in Japanese history. As shogun, Yoritomo established a centralized administrative system in Kamakura. He expanded the samurai dokoro and created the mandokoro administrative board to handle civil and financial affairs, and the monchujo board of inquiry for judicial matters. These institutions allowed him to govern the country directly, bypassing the traditional authority of the imperial court and the old aristocratic families. He appointed loyal samurai as jito, stewards, and shugo, constables, in the provinces, giving them authority over land and law enforcement, further cementing samurai power at the local level. Yoritomo's rule was characterized by pragmatism and a focus on stability. He understood the importance of rewarding his samurai vassals and maintaining their loyalty. He also recognized the need to maintain a relationship, albeit a subordinate one, with the imperial court in Kyoto. He created a dual system of governance, with the court retaining nominal authority and cultural significance, while the real political and military power resided with the shogun in Kamakura. This system would endure in various forms for centuries. Minamoto no Yoritomo's reign as shogun was relatively short. He ruled from 1192 until his death in 1199. The circumstances of his death are somewhat debated, but the most common account states he died after a fall from a horse. His passing was sudden, but the system he had created was robust enough to survive him, thanks in large part to the continued influence of his wife, Hojo Masako, and her family, who would later effectively control the shogunate. Yoritomo's legacy is immense and undeniable. He fundamentally reshaped the political landscape of Japan. He ended centuries of aristocratic rule centered in Kyoto and ushered in an era of samurai governance that would last for nearly 700 years. He proved that military power, organized and centralized, could form the basis of a stable government. He elevated the samurai from provincial warriors to the ruling class, establishing a social hierarchy that would define Japanese society for centuries. The Kamakura Shogunate he founded laid the groundwork for all subsequent military governments in Japan, including the Ashikaga and Tokugawa shogunates. His decision to establish the capital in Kamakura shifted Japan's political center of gravity eastward. Minamoto no Yoritomo was a complex figure, ruthless and pragmatic, patient and ambitious. He rose from the ashes of his clan's defeat, endured years of exile, and seized control of a nation through sheer will and strategic brilliance. His story is a testament to resilience, the power of vision and the dramatic forces that shape history. Minamoto no Yoritomo's journey from exiled boy to the first shogun is more than just history. It's a masterclass in overcoming adversity and strategic leadership. What challenges are you facing? What vision do you hold for your own future? Learn from Yoritomo's patience in exile, his resilience after defeat, and his genius in building a new order. Don't just watch history unfold, understand the forces that drive it. Subscribe to our channel for more epic tales of those who dared to reshape their world, and share this story to inspire others to seize their own destiny.